Santiago, Chile. The political spotlight turned to the studios of Chilevisión, where the country's presidential hopefuls faced each other for the very first time in a nationally televised debate. With the November elections looming large, Chileans tuned in expecting not only political proposals, but a glimpse into the future direction of a nation torn between competing visions. The debate was not merely a battle of personalities, but a clash of ideologies in a country that has rarely been so polarized. The evening began with a parade of candidates arriving one by one, each carefully choreographed for the cameras, each conscious that first impressions could be decisive. José Antonio Kast, the far-right lawyer known for his uncompromising rhetoric, was among the first to step into the spotlight. He walked with measured confidence, greeting the press and delivering remarks that set the tone for his campaign, tough on crime, tougher still on illegal immigration, and unwavering in his call for national security. Hot on his heels came Jeannette Jara, the centre-left coalition candidate who has surged in recent polls and currently shares the top spot with Kast. Calm, approachable and determined, Jara projected a message of empathy, intent on positioning herself as the candidate most connected to the everyday struggles of ordinary Chileans. She knew this debate would be her opportunity to solidify her standing as the frontrunner and speak directly to the fears and hopes of working families. Evelyn Matthei, the conservative veteran of Chilean politics, followed soon after. With decades of experience behind her, she arrived ready to embody stability and pragmatism. Known for her sharp intellect and practical approach to governance, Matthei's entrance reminded Chileans of a politician seasoned by previous battles, prepared to frame herself as the steady hand in turbulent times. From the libertarian far right came Johannes Kaiser, a candidate whose controversial statements have often dominated headlines. Fiercely outspoken, Kaiser entered the studios with his trademark defiance, ready to argue for individual freedoms and the right to self-defense in a country grappling with crime and insecurity. His presence underscored just how wide the ideological spectrum of this election truly is. The outsider populist Franco Parisi was next. An economist with a reputation for shaking up the political establishment, Parisi used his arrival to once again emphasize his appeal as the candidate of ordinary citizens, unbound by the traditional parties that many Chileans have come to distrust. His presence highlighted the disillusionment many voters feel toward conventional politics. Harold Main Nichols, better known as a sports executive than a political figure, entered quietly but firmly. Bringing experience from the world of athletics, he positioned himself as an unconventional choice, someone who could potentially apply lessons from outside politics to the country's governance. Marco Enriquez Ominami, filmmaker and progressive voice, made his way into the debate hall with characteristic charisma. A familiar figure from previous presidential contests, he sought once more to channel the frustrations of Chile's younger and more progressive voters into a vision for structural reform. His arrival was soon followed by Eduardo Artes, the far-left candidate who represents the most radical vision in the field. Together, they ensured that voices across the entire political spectrum would be represented on stage. As the debate began, the cameras turned to Jeannette Jara. She spoke with conviction about her focus on the daily lives of Chileans. She reminded the audience that politics too often drifts into abstraction, while families continue to struggle to make ends meet. In her words, "The main theme I will discuss is the reality people live, their fear of getting sick, their anxiety over paying bills, their insecurity about tomorrow. While we politicians debate, people live these struggles every day." Her intervention underscored the contrast she sought to build, a leader grounded in the realities of working families. Johannes Kaiser took the stage with a very different message. For him, the central question was security. In his own uncompromising words, "Ill-intentioned and armed people are confronted only when well-intentioned and armed people are present. I would prefer carabineros everywhere, but when crime happens, they are not there. Citizens must be able to defend their lives, their property, and their loved ones." His blunt framing reflected not only his campaign's law and order focus, but also a wider unease among Chileans about rising violence and the limits of state protection. Then came Evelyn Matthei. Known for her measured tone, she offered a metaphor that quickly captured attention. Chileans are going through a difficult time. Many are unemployed. When asked if I would use a chainsaw to cut spending, I said pruning shears. We must save money, but without harming Chileans who are struggling. Her words painted her as a pragmatic centrist, willing to impose fiscal discipline, but careful not to push fragile households further into hardship. The pruning shears line quickly became one of the night's most quoted moments. José Antonio Kast, the far-right figurehead, sharpened his focus on what he called Chile's real crises. Chileans are concerned about serious issues, and the security crisis tied to illegal immigration, the unemployment crisis, the lack of growth, the health crisis, the housing crisis, the education crisis. We must make responsible and prudent use of every means of communication. His catalogue of crises painted a picture of a country on the edge, and his message was clear. Only strong, disciplined leadership could restore order. The contrast could not be sharper. On one side, Jara emphasised social welfare and daily struggles. On another, Kast demanded tougher measures on borders and security. Matthei promised careful management without harsh austerity, while Kaiser insisted on the right of citizens to take justice into their own hands. Each message reflected not only the personal style of the candidate, but also the deep divisions running through Chilean society. Beyond the frontrunners, the other candidates sought to carve out space in a crowded field. Franco Parisi leaned once more on his image as an anti-establishment outsider, rejecting the political class. Marco Enriquez Ominami pushed progressive reforms, aiming to connect with voters tired of half measures. Eduardo Artes called for radical systemic change, appealing to those on the far left who believe Chile's problems demand nothing less than a complete overhaul of the system. Harold May Nichols and others reminded the audience that alternative, less conventional leadership was also on the ballot. For viewers across Chile, the debate felt less like a conversation and more like a mirror reflecting the divisions of the nation. Inequality, crime, unemployment, immigration, healthcare. Each candidate named the crises, but their proposed solutions showed just how far apart their visions were. In many ways, the debate illustrated not unity but fragmentation, a Chile still searching for common ground. The stakes, however, are undeniable. Whoever emerges victorious in November will inherit a nation wrestling with rising crime rates, economic stagnation, and a public weary of political promises. Trust in institutions remains fragile, and the outcome of this election could determine not only policy direction, but also the level of stability in Chilean democracy. What became evident during this first debate is that Chileans are not merely voting on leaders, they are voting on values, priorities, and the very shape of their society. Will the electorate turn toward Jeannette Jara's message of empathy and social security? Will it embrace José Antonio Kast's call for law and order? Will Evelyn Matthei's pragmatism attract voters in the centre? Or will outsider and radical voices capture the discontent simmering across the population? This debate did not settle those questions. Instead, it sharpened them. It highlighted the depth of the challenges ahead and underscored the urgency with which Chileans are demanding answers. For some, it was a hopeful display of democratic choice. For others, a sobering reminder of just how fractured the national consensus has become. As Chile looks ahead to November, one thing is clear. The road to the presidency is not only about personalities, but about the competing stories candidates tell about who Chileans are and who they want to become. On this night in Santiago, under the bright lights of Chilevisión, those stories collided on stage. The debate has ended, but the national conversation is only just beginning.
Jeannette, La caña está haciendo son de
No, no es así. El Tratado de Ottawa solamente impide sea un debate donde todos podamos simplemente discutir, conversar.
Sí, el candidato y las candidatas a Chile realmente esperado debate.
Son abogados, son mujeres y hombres de Chile que creo que nos conectan. Así que gracias.
Con la degradación, con los gringos y el occidente colectivo que está en decadencia.
Presidenta, en mi caso en particular, la principal temática que mañana voy a abordar con las personas son la realidad que viven, que eso es lo que está ausente de este debate, qué es lo que les ocurre cuando no pueden llegar a fin de mes, cómo viven la angustia y la inseguridad, qué temor tienen para enfermarse porque caen en la absoluta pobreza. Entonces estamos en una sociedad en la cual los que estamos en política vamos conversando por un lado y lo que está viviendo la gente va pasando por otro. Yo espero
que no nos olvidemos de una cosa, la gente mala armada es detenida por gente buena armada. Prefiero, naturalmente, tener carabineros en todos lados. Prefiero una institución de carabineros, una institución de investigaciones que sea muy, muy potente. Pero en el momento de la comisión del delito, normalmente no hay un carabinero presente. Y usted, como ciudadano, como ciudadana, tiene derecho a poder defender su vida, su propiedad y a sus seres queridos.
Muchas gracias, candidato.
Muchas gracias.
Pero al mismo tiempo, los chilenos lo están pasando mal. Les cuesta llegar a fin de mes. Muchos no tienen empleo. Entonces hay que ser especialmente cuidadosos. Por eso que me acuerdo que alguna vez me preguntaban si nosotros aquí íbamos a tener motosierra. Y yo dije que era más bien tejeras de podar, porque hay que entrar a podar ahí donde podamos, obviamente, ahorrar dinero, pero al mismo tiempo no perjudicar a los chilenos que están en un momento complejo.
Sí, decir que los chilenos están preocupados de temas bastante más graves. Están preocupados de la crisis en seguridad, de la inmigración ilegal, de la crisis del desempleo, de la crisis de la falta de crecimiento, de la crisis de la salud, de la crisis de la vivienda, de la crisis de la educación. Nosotros tenemos que hacer un uso responsable y prudente siempre de todos los medios de comunicación y nosotros lo hacemos.